Yeah. Okay, I think we are on the YouTube now. Hello, everyone. Well, good morning, Europe, and good afternoon in Turkey, and good evening in Melbourne. Hello, everyone. I like this feeling, it's like a spray all around the world. Not really. We're still missing the United States and Canada, South American part. But hello, nice to see everyone. Welcome to the Worldscope Capricorn Ingress special part one. Well, today we have Julija Simas and Kenan Yasin and Lianne Mccaffertyand join us to talk about a Capricorn Ingress because this is so important for the mountain astrologer. We examine the different seasons. Well, some technique maybe have a little variant, so like tomorrow on the Friday night, 8 p.m. UK time, we have Lehman, a very famous mountain astrologer and traditional astrologer, joined by Wade Caves to talk about it. And they already mentioned about how different methods to use the Capricorn Ingress. So, well, I think I haven't invited everyone to say hello. Sorry about that. Hi, Julia. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Rod, for inviting me again. Good to see you. You're doing an amazing job. Good agent, I have to say. You're doing this all the time. I mean, how many videos do you do a week? It's fantastic. And gathering all the people. So good on you.
I think it's I think it's like CI give me the great idea about we should all connect it and also globally because well, when we focus on news somehow apart from the kind of a conflict area, we always just didn't know what happened. Maybe some people still have no idea Argentina already changed the president or something. So I think we like to know what's happening around the world, and that help hold us together. So, hi Kenan, how are you? How's everything?
Thank you so much. Rod has built a bridge between us now today. I know. And hi, my dear esteemed Agent 12. Hello again. It's good to see you in here now. And
Yeah.
hi, Lianne. And it's our first meeting. And
Yeah.
please let me tell you a short story because 2 or 3 days ago I saw you with Wendy, dear esteemed Wendy Stacy. I think you were celebrating an early Christmas. I don't know, but I have a very special memory with Wendy. When she first came to Turkey many years ago, she gave us a wonderful presentation about unexpected planets, feral planets. And when she first introduced herself that day, she said to this class, I'm going to imitate in her own voice. Hello, I'm Brenda Stacy, and I'm started to my professional astrologer careers since in 1989. And at that time, I was shocked because I was born in 1989. And I know that Wendy's professional astrology career is exactly my age, as old as I am. It was a pretty impressive moment for me. Maybe if you see her these days, please tell her about this memory.
Okay. Well do. Hi Lianne, how's it in the north? We have snow there.
Oh, really?
There's no snow at the moment here. It's okay. It's quite warm now. So it's about 7 degrees, which is quite warm.
Okay. Yes, true. Yeah, 7 degrees for us is warm. When you tell Kenan and Julia 7 degrees, they were just like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so are we ready for the Capricorn Ingress? So Julia, what do you bring us today?
Okay, I'll share my screen. Let me just get this right. I just one sec. Play in the window. Oh, hang on. Play. How's this? Can you see that?
Yeah.
We haven't seen play yet. We can see the first slide you display.
Okay, great. Hang on. Why? Your screen sharing is paused. Why is it paused? Why? Oh. Okay, sorry.
We can.
Okay.
Don't worry.
So I'm just not sure if is my pointer. Can you see the pointer? No.
No,
Something
you
not
are
working.
yeah.
Something strange going on.
Because
Resume.
Mercury is in
Just going to start again, sorry, because it's not
stationary
allowing.
point now.
So, yeah, that's right. Oh gosh.
Indeed. I think we
Oh,
are.
that's better.
I think
Okay.
we're good now. Yep.
All right, now you can see it. Yeah. So I mean, this is the Ingress chart just for Canberra, Australia. But what I've written on the side is just, well, the main aspects of the Ingress chart just overall, wherever we're looking at. And you've probably talked about this a few times already. Have you had a few Capricorn Ingress sessions already, Rod?
I already had 2, but let's go with that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so as we know, the sun trines the moon and Jupiter. It's the sun's conjunct a Mercury retrograde, which is very, very telling, let's say. All of that sextile Saturn. So Saturn is pretty much at the midpoint there. The moon conjunct Jupiter, amplifying, I suppose, everything that the people are going through to do with, funds and money and, Taurus things. And as a country, I suppose we'd be thinking about the economy or resources or even the climate sort of aspects of things, as Jupiter and Uranus will be coming together in 2024 in Taurus. So it really exemplifies the natural world, I think, as well. The moon is at the first quarter phase. I think, that very much relates to the difficulty that perhaps we're going to find over the next few months to actually push past these, these issues, let's say. The moon is square Pluto out of sign, Pluto being at the end of Capricorn. We're seeing the worst of things, I think, as well, to do with the way the world is managed, let's say, by those in charge, which is very much a Capricorn scenario. Venus is opposite Uranus. So, as we know, that's quite a, Venus in Scorpio, Uranus in Taurus is really sort of opening up the, I mean, all of you can, butt in here if you like, say something. Uranus is quincunx Mars, and Mars is just going out of bounds as well for the next month. So it doesn't go far out of bounds, but it's interesting to connect that to Mars square Neptune as well, which was the same at the Aries ingress, and we had Mars out of bounds. So really, as we know, Mars ruling the Aries ingress is also was out of bounds back then. So we've had a year being ruled, in a sense, by Mars out of bounds. So, kind of helps explain a few things in the way of how, over the top a lot of things have been, really, for many people. Jupiter is square 135 to Mars. So, there's a lot of sort of aspects that, I don't think everybody looks at, they look at quincunxes, but not the 135 squares, which I've learnt to really sort of incorporate into charts. Some midpoints that are important, of course. Saturn is the midpoint of Sun and Jupiter, and Saturn in Pisces has showed us a lot, in this year, especially with the breaking of borders and all the immigration, the over the top immigration sort of bursting at the seams. There is no containment for what can be done there. And then Chiron, interestingly, and this is very interesting because Chiron rises in the Australia chart close to the node, is that the Chiron midpoints, when I looked at the dial, the Chiron midpoints pretty much like nearly took over the whole chart, right? So I was quite amazed in the sense that it is the Sun-Moon midpoint, it's the Mercury retrograde, Pluto midpoint, and it's a Jupiter-Neptune midpoint. So I think 2024, as we know, an eclipse will be happening, a solar eclipse conjunct Chiron, exactly in April. So Chiron's, a bit of a flavor, let's say. Does anyone want to say anything about the chart just in general in that sense?
Yeah, yeah. Do you want me to jump in?
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
please.
yeah.
So I quite like this chart. I think there's some there's bits to like, and then there's obviously some trickier bits. But the first thing that struck me, there's no air. There's no
Yeah,
air.
no air.
Okay. So I do wonder if this is going to be perhaps a case where we overcompensate in communication, or the communication just gets lost in some ways. But and that Venus Uranus, it forms a rim to the bowl. The chart is, it's quite condensed in just one hemisphere
Yes.
there. So
Yeah.
obviously, I think we're going to see more instability in the financial markets, the cost of living crisis, which is a global thing. So I think that's going to keep playing out and be very much a focus. But what really draws me in this chart is the mini grand trine. So we've got Saturn there as an apex to that Earth trine with Sun, Mercury, and Moon, Jupiter. Okay. There's so much opportunity there. And I think Saturn as the apex is important because it rules this ingress. It's the Capricorn ingress. So I think Saturn here is very, very important. And that Earth trine of Sun, Mercury, Moon, and Jupiter, it wants stability, it wants peace, and it wants order. And I think with Mercury and Jupiter trine, I think it's going to be about law, legislation, more discussions around how do we stabilize, not only the financial situation, but the situation in Gaza, for example. Okay. And I think the UN yesterday is called for a ceasefire. Okay, and Israel is pushing back and
About
saying,
time, huh?
yeah, Israel's refusing and saying it's just going to go on with or without global support. And I think this mini grand trine there's a lot of support there. You've got Moon exalted conjunct Jupiter. And I think this is good for people. If we take the Moon as people, it's got benefit Jupiter next to it. So I think that it's going to be about lots of discussions around law and legislation. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some enforcement of law, international law on Israel. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk more about that when we look at Israel's chart.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, the migrant situation. That Saturn and Pisces, and Capricorn's about boundaries as well. And I was having a quick look at the news in Australia, and I saw that they're aiming to cut their immigration by 50% by 2025. Of course, we've got the Rwanda situation in here, where Rishi Sunak's bill has just got through Parliament, but it's going to be reviewed in January. So it's a typical Mercury retrograde. They're going to have to go back and review the legislation around Rwanda, which of course is all about immigration and refugees, and Saturn and Pisces. They're the underdog, and the people suffering, and they're lost and homeless and trying to seek refuge. All those types of themes. We've got COP28. They've just slipped a sort of amendment through there, which seems very, very dodgy. I haven't looked into it in detail, but I think they're trying to slide out of all the commitments to sort of net zero. So I need to look at that when I have more time. But the other point in this chart I find really interesting is Uranus forms the apex to a yod with that Mars in Sagittarius, and the South Node. All right. So what Mars in Sagittarius, it's on a quest. It's on a mission, isn't it? Whether it's religious or legal, and it's reactive. It wants to fire ahead, and it doesn't want to be held back. And I think it's very much about Israel refusing the ceasefire. Very much wanting to keep going. And Mars sextile that South Node. It's not progressive, is it? The South Node's the past. It's what's keeping us stuck from progressing into the future. And it's Israel, refusing to let go of what it believes it owns or should own. We're sort of talking about these Venus Taurus themes that have been highlighted. And that yod is split by that opposition between Venus and Uranus, and there's wars all about the land and who owns what bit of land, and so I do think that Mars quincunx Uranus is very unpredictable. Israel is not very happy being told what to do, being told what it should believe in, that type of thing. So I think that could be very, very unpredictable. Very much that Mars going out of bounds in Sag, quincunx that Uranus. I think that is very unpredictable and quite explosive, to be honest. And then the final thing, before I don't want to take over, going back to that Saturn in Pisces, I'm really thinking about climate and weather. And, that mini grand trine, it's very earth water. So I'm wondering if we're maybe going to see some flooding or earthquakes, especially with the Uranus going on as well. And I was having a quick look at Turkey, because I don't follow Turkish news every day. We tend to follow our own news.
Not important for us.
And one thing that jumped out at me, apparently the water levels are rising in the reservoirs in Turkey, I believe. So I just wondered
to overflow.
Well, they're a lot higher than they've been for several years, apparently. So, I do wonder if that's going to tie in with sort of water boundaries and breaches of water, and we associate Saturn with dams, don't we? And pushing the water back. But when Saturn in Pisces, it can also be about the land being breached and the land being flooded, all those types of themes. So they were just my immediate thoughts on this ingress.
No, that's great. I think, it's important to remember also, the kind of year that we've had since the Aries ingress as well, because Venus was conjunct Jupiter, the North Node at 5 degrees of Taurus, where that Jupiter is as well. So, everything that's connected to that has now got Jupiter on it, right? So it's accentuated. And I can see, I see the moon Jupiter in Taurus. Yes, the moon's exalted in Taurus, and it's very bountiful, but it also accentuates the the haves and the have-nots, doesn't it? It's accentuating everything that's happening. I think.
And I think with the mini grand trine, the two sextiles and the trine, it's full of opportunity, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's positive. It's opportunity for anything to happen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes.
So it could go either way, couldn't it? It could go either way.
Yeah. Well, it's usually both, isn't it? It's not just one way. That's what we have to look at in astrology. We have to look at, the positives and the negatives in both ways.
Exactly.
So I'm just comparing the Aries ingress chart for Canberra and the Capricorn one now. And this is what we noticed when we did our CIA panel this morning, is that, the Aries ingress charts around the world are very similar to the Capricorn ingress. Have you noticed that? So here it is, we've got Chiron, we've got the Aries rising, we've got Chiron back in the same place. So, for Australia, I think it's really like the last time we talked was for the Libra ingress, and I was looking at the no vote, the yes vote. That happened to be the no vote for Australia. And it's really sort of accentuating, like there was so many of us were just so devastated after that, thinking how awful it is that this did not come through, and it's going to take a lot longer before, anything's done about that. So it's very much, we talked about that, kind of wounding that we're carrying with our Indigenous Australians. So it's very much, there again, this time. And there's a lot more, but, we can keep going. But I just want to also point out that this Capricorn ingress has got Jupiter and Saturn in a contraparallel, declination. So they're aligned, let's say, by that aspect, the invisible aspect, in a sense. Here we can see that Mars is out of bounds, or has just gone out of bounds. And, there's a few parallels. The moon is actually parallel Jupiter, and the moon is also contraparallel. So we're bringing in, other sort of elements of things. And also the sun, the Pluto is actually sitting at 23 declination as well, where the sun is. So this is really sort of amplifying things. It's probably, I didn't check the last Capricorn ingress to see, but you know, Pluto moves slowly, as we know, and hovers in the same area. So, you know, a Pluto Sun thing. Do you remember, like a few years ago, every ingress had a Pluto Sun conjunction for a while?
Yeah.
Remember, you know, so
Yeah.
with Pluto Sun Capricorn ingress declination conjunctions, you know, for I haven't looked how far back, but that helps also to explain, you know, just the intensity of this time, and Pluto at the end of Capricorn as well. So for the ingress again in Canberra, I've looked back to 2020 because it's so very much connected. Okay. And the reason, okay, of course, we know 2020 was, you know, before COVID started, or the Capricorn ingress of 2020. And the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happened, you know, on that day as well, or, you know, a few hours later or something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the Paula from South America this morning reminded us that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, or the chart, like if we're looking at ingress charts, it's one of the charts that we should always look at as the background of something, you know, of the bigger background, because it's a 20-year chart. Do you know what I mean? It's it's ruling like a 20-year period. So look, the things that, of course, were very similar were Mars is right on the node, okay, of the North Node right now, okay? So Mars, you know, relating to that. And we've got the nodes actually where Mars is right now, right? So now the thing about what happened back in 2020, Australia was on fire and it got worse, okay? It was the worst fires ever all down the coast of Australia. And just before I show the next slide, the Australia chart has a moon in Taurus at 20 degrees, which is where Uranus is right now, okay? Or this line up with Venus opposite and so on. So unexpected, you know, people affected, you know, Venus is opposite. When we see Venus strong in mundane charts, there's a loss, you know, there's property, there's a lot to do with money and property, and you know, this is a moon, Mars, now Uranus on Australia, okay, on the Australia chart, which I'll show in a minute. So I'll put these two charts together for the ingress of 2020 and 2023, and we can see that Mars there, and we can see the connection, you know, lining up to what was happening back then. And hang on, let me just, and before, so yeah, the Aries ingress nodal axis, sorry, the Aries ingress following 2020 had the nodal axis right over the ascendant and descendant. This Aries ingress has got Chiron, and the next Aries ingress of 2024 has the nodal axis on the MC and IC. So I'm thinking that the bushfire season hasn't really started here yet. So back in 2020, it was already very much aflame. And the reason is we've had everything, but it's been actually really quite wet. And when they say it's been a very wet, you know, spring and into the beginning of summer, everything, you know, is growing. There's lots of regrowth. There's lots and lots of green. And that's what so quickly dries out, right? Because there's a lot of growth, it quickly dries out. So you know, I don't really want to predict bushfire season, but that's already sort of out there that, you know, the bushfire, the temperatures are getting hotter. And so on. So anyway, that's just something to, you know, to look ahead to in that sense. And so this is the Australia, you know, chart of 1901. So here's the moon at 20 degrees of Taurus, and, you know, known as the land of bushfires. We've got all this Sagittarius, you know, like in the 8th house, right? You know, so I learned something the other day, which was very interesting in a documentary from a botanist in Western Australia, who we've always been sort of told that the Australian bush needs to have fire to regenerate, you know, to crack the really hard nuts, to be able to burst and stuff. But this botanist said their studies have shown that it's actually the smoke that is needed to do that. Smoke, not fire.
Smoke.
Yes. So the smoke. So that's just I just went, wow, okay, so anyway, it's just a sort of a new concept, really, in the sense we always thought it needs the heat and the fire, but it's actually the smoke. So anyway, there we go. So this is on the astrocartography map. We can see that, Canberra is in the middle here. So we've got Chiron very close and the North Node, going through here. And we'll look at Israel and Gaza a bit later. But Neptune, you probably already know, is right through this area, as it was at the Aries ingress as well, yeah? And we have Ceres rising in Israel, and we've got Mars very close by as well. Both of those rising together, they're not far apart. So let's hone in on that area. And now I'm just putting it on the geodetic map. So those of you who understand the geodetic map, I've been calling it like the sun sign map, mundane map, right? Because, we've got a fixed point, and then we've got the 30 degrees of everything, and, whatever chart you're looking at just slots in there. So if you know that the whole Israel zone is 5 degrees of Taurus, or Jerusalem is 5 degrees of Taurus, then it's highlights, if anything is at 5 degrees of Taurus, like Jupiter is right now stationing, right? And for Australia, it's we've got a Leo MC in Canberra and a Sagittarius ascendant, okay? Now have a look at this. So this is the geodetic map for 2023, and here we have Mars going through all the area that was burnt last time, okay? So Mars is in the same, kind of area on the geodetic map, okay?
You shared an eclipse chart regarding the worst fire in 2020. You shared the eclipse chart in 2020, and the eclipse was passing directly through the Australia. I remember.
Yeah, look, I've just stuck to the ingress charts here. I'm glad I've got 2 screens now, because when you're doing astro maps, it's like you need to paste them everywhere.
We should examine other charts and other techniques. We should.
Yeah, because you can't see them small. Like, it takes over your whole screen, and you need a few screens. So I'm sort of getting used to anyway maneuvering. And then this is the 2020 chart, when the nodes were in exactly on this area, exactly the same. Of course, it's exactly the same, spot. So that's a bit alarming. And, we've got a hurricane going on at the moment in the north of Queensland, which is, again, all up here. So where Chiron is as well. So that's really replicated. So yeah, and I mean that's all I really had for Australia. Does anyone want to sort of ask anything or say anything in that sense in regard to this?
First, sorry. Can I? At first, I was really feel stunning about the both the Aries Ingress chart and the Capricorn Ingress chart in Australia. That Chiron was right on the ascendant, and 100% agree with you. These these yes vote, no vote, really has a strong impact. I know not only with Aborigine Australia Aborigine people, but there is a sense there because Chiron is the is the minority group, and those people, and also they are deeply rooted with the earth, with ground, so that Chiron symbol there is so stunning. You couldn't make it up. That was just my quick comment about it. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. And again, those of us that are not Indigenous, we just feel really hurt because we're kind of representing the white people, the immigrants and stuff. So yeah, it's anyway, we've got a wound to carry, and again, that's very much reflected there. So I just wanted to remind us that we are in a period now, because we're in the Capricorn season, and we're in what we call the lunar standstill, or coming into the lunar standstill, which is exact at the beginning of 2025. I can't remember exactly. It's like around March or April, probably around the Aries ingress or something. And that's very close to the Neptune-Saturn, conjunction also coming through, right? So we've got the peak of of, you know, every month now, the moon is going out of bounds, right? Twice a month, right? Up and down, like north declination, south declination. But then when we see it happening with a lunation, like a new moon, an eclipse, or a full moon, we've just had 3 of them, right? Or sorry, we've had 1. We've got another one coming up. Oh, sorry, we've just had 2. We've got another 3 coming up, because whenever the moon gets into the signs close to the solstice points, like, you know, Capricorn and Sagittarius and Gemini and what's the other one? Cancer. And sometimes it's further out than that as well. We get the moon out of bounds. But when it connects to a lunation, we see some really, you know, some big highlights happening. And look, if looking back into the year again, that time of year, January, you know, mid-year, June, July, and then December, January, and into February, the full moon prior to the Turkish earthquake was out of bounds at one degree of Aquarius. There was a new moon. It happened on the new moon, or just after, didn't it? Or just before, can't remember. Just before or just after a new moon. Then when we had the new moon in Cancer, it was just prior to the fires in Maui. So it does really seem to be accentuating the time. So these periods around the solstice points, when the moon is really, you know, the lunations are out of bound, are things to watch. And of course, that is what we've got coming up for the next few weeks. So just to keep an eye on that. And then these are just some graphs that, you know, help us understand, you know, when planets are out of bounds, they're either they're near. Declination is, of course, measured from the ecliptic, right? So the sun's path, so they have to be, you know, beyond the sun's reach in that sense. And therefore, you know, in the signs of when the sun's, you know, in the southern declination or the northern declination, this is the let's say the highlights, the cards that we look at to go, oh, you know, this planet might be going out of bounds. So just keeping that in mind. And of course, that's got a lot to do with the antitia and contra antitia and how we look at that as well. Yeah. So again, some hidden aspects that some people would not look at. And I just put this slide in because I had it from the Cancer Ingress or something.
Yeah.
So this is the Cancer Ingress. And these are the places, the highlights of what's happened in the last 6 months, right? And it's just incredible how it's very much connected. Pluto through the area of Morocco, there was an earthquake. So those amazing floods through, what was the place called? You know, where that dam burst.
I think it's the Libya or
Libya.
Yeah, which has got Venus going through there, crossed by Jupiter. And I think Saturn was involved in another chart. But then we have, this was the Libya one. Sorry, this is it here, isn't it?
Okay.
Is that right?
Nearby. I think Libya
would be Saturn in Pisces. It was Saturn in Pisces. No, that's right.
Okay.
That's what I remember. And then where the divers disappeared, you know, looking for the sunken ship.
Yes, that.
And it's got Neptune going right through there, Neptune. How incredibly spot on. Then we got hurricane
Astrology
area.
works always.
What was that?
Astrology works always.
Yes. Then the Maui fires, we've got Mercury and Saturn crossing, and we've got Pluto in the area where the Rider strike was on. And anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It's just incredible. I actually find the solstice charts more telling with astrocartography somehow.
It does.
Just overall, yeah. Anyway, I couldn't do more study on that. So do we want to talk about Israel and Gaza?
Let's dive in then. Let's dive in.
So this is the ingress chart for Jerusalem. So, you know, the capital of Israel, of course. And we can see Ceres right there rising. And, you know, Mars nearby. So, of course, all those aspects we've talked about and everything is all very relevant. Now, Ceres, of course, is the goddess of grief. reminds us of the grief that everyone is going through, losing children, so many children lost, and so on. And of course, I think the moon and Jupiter in the 5th house. In mundane astrology, does the 5th still rule children? I know it rules leaders or the presidents. It does, yeah. So I don't know, comments on this chart.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We've still got that Mars-Neptune square going on, and it's angular.
Yeah,
that's really strong, and there's almost a sense of delusion from the Israel leadership. They're almost deluded, and they're obviously obsessive, but it's like it's all about firepower, isn't it? And I was just looking at the news this morning, and the amount of airstrikes that are happening in Gaza as well. It's just incredible. But it's just like there's no control. It's gone wild, and that's a mutable square, isn't it? And it's just indiscriminate.
Ruled by Jupiter. By Jupiter.
Yeah. And it's indiscriminate. Okay, it's just like it's just crazy. There's no form or plan to it. Almost, it's just like we're just gonna go in there and fire, and we don't care who gets hit or whatever. It's incredibly sort of misguided, and we'll just have to see how that goes. But I do think this Sun Mercury conjunction as well. It is, and we've got Saturn in the 3rd house there, don't we? Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting to do with your neighbors, isn't it? To your neighbors, maybe this ceasefire will be somehow enforced.
I think so, very much so.
It's really close to Turkey. It's really close to Turkey's Capricorn Ingress chart, because our capital city is Ankara. Is a small distance between the Israel, Jerusalem, and Ankara. I'm gonna mention that for my country.
Yes, okay.
This one.
So any other comments on that? I mean, I've got a few things more connected to that. Again, just remembering that we also had an eclipse this year, on that 5 degrees of Taurus that just keeps showing up all year. And of course, again, the geodetic map is Jerusalem is 5 degrees of Taurus. Unbelievable. It's just incredible, I think. And then of course, all the eclipses this year have been Libra, Venus ruled, Libra, Taurus, as well. Oh, sorry, all of them, not May. Well, anyway. And then Kenan, you presented this on one of your Instagram posts, and it was just incredible because could you want to explain this to us a bit more?
Maybe you're starting now, and then maybe I complete.
So this is the prime meridian that was used back in Ptolemaic times, and it goes right through. Jerusalem was the prime meridian line, and of course, if we follow that up, it actually goes through Turkey, where the earthquake happened just before the Aries, in the Capricorn Ingress time as well. So I just think it's quite astounding that it's so volatile there, right? That it's such a volatile line on the planet that is dividing things. And wasn't it Nostradamus said that everything is going to, sort of erupt from this middle zone, back then? So anyway, any more comments on that?
The Ptolemy and other astrologers, the ancient astrologer, his time divided the Earth into 4 parts. So they used a calculation for the 240 years elemental cycles of Saturn and conjunctions. So previously, when these conjunctions were in the fire element, fire triplicities attended the European countries. So when they turned back to the fire element, European countries had power and authority. And in the year when it was in the water element, we see the discovery of the America, of course, because the America is related to the water element. And when it's the earth element, it empowers China down to India and, of course, Australia, but not discovered yet. Now we have entered the air element, and of course the air element cycle and the power has gone up. So now the power is dominated by Russia. And you know, that's why the European countries are struggling for other natural resources for now. And, you know, because for Israel, I have not looked in detail, but I would like to briefly mention this because I think that is the natural gas reserved in the Mediterranean Sea, you know, and the water reserves in the Mesopotamian or Fertile Crescent area region. There are great importance for us. So at that moment, European countries do not want to depend on Russia's natural energy resources. That's why they have a desire for natural gas in Mediterranean. Also, Palestine has a say here. Therefore, bigger events may occur there.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Thank you, Kenan. This is fascinating. Just a quick comment, because last, I think with the around I think with the maybe like 14th century or something. Last, if I remember correctly, last Jupiter Saturn conjunction in the air sign was coincident together with the Mongolia rising up when the Genghis Khan, the time of Genghis Khan. And all this air area, and there was the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in the air, and this area indeed rising up powerfully is from Mongolia and all this area. And thank you for bringing that out. It's so interesting.
Yeah, wow.
Because, you know, Ptolemy didn't know everywhere in that time.
True, yes.
You know, the Canary Islands and the west. The west side is Canary Islands, and the east side is just maybe China or something.
Okay, yeah. No, but that is so interesting. Thank you.
It's amazing, isn't it? Anyway, I just think that it's just so fascinating because it's such a hot spot. And of course, it goes right through the area of Ukraine as well.
Yeah.
That is being fought for. So, you know, just bizarre. And just this is now the geodetic map just showing, you know, 5 degrees of, sorry, the ingress that we had the, what do you call it? Mars was on the IC. Mars was on the IC. What am I saying here? The lunar eclipse was on there this year, as I was saying. That's the left map. And then at the same time of the eclipse, Pluto was rising, right, you know, near the area. Okay, I mean, it's just a little bit south, but as we know, astrocartography maps, you know, we've got 100 kilometers is 1 degree sort of thing. So, you know, it's within range, right? So
maybe approximately 110 kilometers.
110.
Steve Cozy said, Jim Lewis also.
Yeah, 110. So anyway, and of course, what else was I saying? Venus, I know. So the natal chart of Israel from 1948, I can't remember all the details, but I do remember it has 12 degrees of Leo. Pluto. And that's exactly where Venus stationed retrograde, direct after her retrograde. So, you know, things had been building up and, you know, as we know, so there's a lot of things we can look at. And of course, if we're doing sort of mundane work, there's so many levels, you know, you can't just look at one thing. You've got to look at quite a few things that sort of build up. And I've just put this in because I had it there. This was the full moon before or just before the Turkish earthquake, which I can't believe was this year. It feels like it was ages ago, but it was just this year, wasn't it?
Yes.
And we have the node crossing with the sun. Now, this is the geodetic map right over, right in the area. And this is, of course, you know, the same sort of latitude, longitude of what's going on in Gaza. So definitely a hotspot of 2023. Okay?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm sure the examine. I'm so sorry to interrupt that, but I examined the Uranus declination charts, and that's also important for us because I'll share that the chart of the Uranus when it turned to south declination. And the moon in the chart at the time of the earthquake were exactly on the top of each other.
The moon and Uranus.
Yes,
Okay.
the moment of the earthquake.
At zero latitude. Are you saying it's zero?
Zero.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Good work.
Thank you.
No, again, it's all those things. You can't just think, oh, it's because, you know, Pluto's at the end of Capricorn. There's, you know, Pluto's with the sun at the end of Capricorn, you know. I mean, there's I think that's all I've got. And then I was just showing the geodetic map of when, remember we had an eclipse at 29 of Aries in April, just after the ingress, and the nodes, of course, geodetically moved into the new sign, 29 of Aries. And exactly when that happened, or when the Maui fires happened, we've got the node going right through 29, right through this area as well. And what was this one? And then there was fires in Greece at the same node on the opposite side of the world. So it's also very connected. And I'll just show you this. We did a panel this morning where we talked again, but Paula from Sao Paulo, Canada, Amsterdam, and myself. So if anyone wants to watch that, we've got more information about, you know, there's just so much to talk about. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you, Julija. You always bring us an amazing idea. I think always, and I get inspired from you a lot. Thank you.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Okay. So, Kenan, how about your present?
I don't know how much enough time.
We have all the time you need.
Okay. Let me share my screen now. Maybe taking this one. Where is my documentary? Oops. This one is PDF. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe Capricorn Ingress. Okay. Hello again, and I will talk about our country, of course. I will give information about what awaits Turkey in the next 3 months. And of course, while evaluating our country, I think maybe you agree with me, Rod, because the audience or followers will be informed about how we use symbols, how we interpret them. So they will not only see the comments about one country, because we are all talking about one issue here, but our interpretations are different between us.
Yeah.
We are all evaluating from our own perspective, and that's also so special. Thank you for being with us, Rod. And
we always learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, the ancients said that we can use the chart of the moment of entry at 0 degrees Aries to evaluate it for a whole year. So I want to begin this Aries ingress chart, especially if the ascendant is in the fixed sign, you know, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, it will be effective for the whole year. And if it's a mutable sign, it will be effective for 6 months. And for the other 6 months, they said that it would be appropriate to draw a new chart, of course. And if the rising sign is in the Aries ingress chart is a cardinal sign, then they said that we should use a chart for each seasonal ingress. So we should create an ingress chart every 3 months that year. But now I think it will be a good example to compare the two techniques with each other. And now you can see the first rising sign is in Sagittarius. Of course, just thinking about the Sagittarius, because the first half of the year went exactly as the Aries ingress chart describes in Turkey, of course. So we will say, what is Sagittarius? Rights, law, justice, transportation, travel, press, broadcasting, media, and its ruler and Jupiter that belongs trade, economic administration. And also, I prefer to use the politics with Jupiter. Why? Because I know that in mundane astrology, Venus shows politics, but I paid a lot of attention to etymology, Rod, when I work with symbols, because in Turkish, the origin of the word politics in Turkish is siyaset, and it's based on the word seyis in Turkish, and seyis means horsemanship. You know, there is a similarity between horse sitting and politics. I think that taking care of horses requires a management stability, management ability, of course. Maybe horses are also related, you know, the Jupiter. Therefore, I use Jupiter as a symbol when it comes to politics, especially, of course, in Turkey. And I recommend
Fantastic.
that. Yes, I observed that it worked quite well, and I recommend that. As you know, you mentioned that before, there was a big earthquake in our country, and it was the Marash earthquake, but it was the great disaster that affected 10 provinces, you know. And we know that, unfortunately, you know, we do not have a life intervened with the nature, and we always break the laws of nature, of course, unfortunately. So this situation caused a great economic problem besides the loss of life. So in the chart, Sagittarius ruler Jupiter is in Aries in conjunct with Chiron in the 4th house for us. So with Chiron, we witnessed many children being left without parents, as Lianne also mentioned that before, dear Lianne, because I prefer not to just the meaning of the Chiron, wand or healer. I also mentioned that there is also according to Chiron's mythology, because we know that he was separated from his parents. So, and we know Chiron was an unwanted child, you know. So that is significant area while we use the symbol, because a lot of people were left homeless. So in the earthquake. And Aries, you know, has a hot and dry nature. So when we consider Jupiter as a temperament, it has a warm and moist temperament. Although it has a triplicity rulership here, but it does not feel comfortable there. And we have all experienced huge despair, and our economy has also been affected. And apart from that, Jupiter indicates politics. So we had presidential elections, and maybe I can share this one. Yes, we had presidential elections this year.
Yeah.
Also, Sagittarius ascendant is a mutable sign. You know, the elections were repeated. It happened twice. That is also funny. And of course, we also need to compare it with the chart of Turkey, but I will skip this for now because in order to use the time preciously. But Jupiter is also associated with space and aviation. Maybe agree with me or not, I don't know, because while in traditional astrology, it's associated with Aquarius and Saturn. In modern astrology, they associated the Uranus and Aquarius. Also, but when we go back even further, we see that the Jupiter is associated with the long journeys and travel. And go back in history, so even in Sumer mythology, Sumer or Babylonian mythology or cosmology. We find the first historical records, of course, and there are three gods in there: An or Anu, Enlil, and Enki. And Anu refers to the heavens, and it belongs to Uranus. And Enki points on the Earth, and it belongs to Saturn. And these two were together before, because the Earth and the sky were together in the form of a sphere. And then Enlil intervened, and the sky and the earth were separated each other. So air came in between. Therefore, Enlil is associated with air and Jupiter. And also we remember that Zeus is also associated with lightnings and air. That's why I associated Jupiter with space and weather. And this year, as you can see, Turkey sent a satellite into space. Its name is İmece, İmece in Turkish meaning. And also there is also a first satellite that we had. And the Istanbul Finance Center opened in April, and we also I also mentioned that another one is Black Sea. We found natural gas in the Black Sea and put it into use. And gases are again associated with the great gas giant Jupiter, of course. And in addition, the natural of gas has made maybe small economic contribution for us. But we are observing Jupiter again. And in our ingress chart this year, Jupiter was in Aries, and Aries symbolizes, pioneers and our prioritizes and firsts. And we can give examples such as the first satellite launch into space, the first natural gas extraction. And also Jupiter is in the fourth house, as you can see, which symbolizes the fourth house belongs to Earth matter, Earth resources, and Earth tremors roots. And that's also impressive for us. In fact, Aries rules Mars, is also Gemini, and Lianne mentioned before, because it's only one air element sign in the chart. So we call this type of placement a singleton planet, and it means that all events related with the air will be seen through Mars matters, of course. Mars also refers to the first one. And we can also expand all of this information even more, but we don't have enough time. So maybe we can share. I'm so sorry. Turkey's first satellite is in there, and
cool.
gas plant is in there, and you can see the mice. And these days, Capricorn Ingress of the Sun. As you can see, the ascendant is Sagittarius again, and this time we will have local election ahead of us. In fact, the election date will take place in, I remember that, 31st, March 31st, which means it's entered the Aries ingress time. But however, the work will be done before the elections, because for the next 3 months, municipalities and candidates will introduce themselves during these 3 months in there. Therefore, the next 3 months will again bring politics to the forefront. So I don't know what the elections will bring, but I have predictions, of course. Maybe if you agree, Rod, we can do a broadcast in March. I don't know, because I watched your evolutions with dear Anna Andrade before. And Anna told that our Turkey's elections, so it's also special comment for us.
That would be fantastic, please.
And I noted in there Abu Mashar on the revolutions. I also mentioned that book extra. Abu Mashar said about Sagittarius, he said that it shows the power of kings and nobles compared to ordinary people, indicating the emergence of the superiority of governments. So it's also important for us because in the first house we have Mars. And unfortunately, the quincunx aspect between the Mars and Uranus is in our sixth house, can unfortunately maybe carry epidemic diseases. I don't know, because especially classical astrologers have pointed to the diseases that occurs among those animals for Mars placed, which is in animal science. And this is an element of danger of birds because Sagittarius related with birds and maybe migrating animals or wild animals, creatures living, and especially for Mars is in Sagittarius. So there may be a problem with bird flu cases here, or diseases carried by imported animals from abroad, and maybe it may threaten our country because we have experienced mad cow disease before in this way before, because it was transmitted to us from cows we bought the Netherlands, Holland, Netherlands. And now I remember that I think France is currently dealing with the bird flu issue. Do you agree? Okay. Because I examined the France chart, and also it's belongs to the last new moon in Sagittarius, and I prepared the France chart, and the new moon was in the sixth house in France. So sixth house is also cases this problem. And Sagittarius also shows foreign nations. So in our country, as you know, as always, you know, there are migrations from Ukraine, Russia, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, who want to get away from the war. So of course, and unfortunately, Europe is uneasy about this. It is in a struggle to reduce the rate of illegal immigration. So for this reason, we are holding certain meetings during these 3 months, and also talks or negotiations. And also, Julia mentioned that before, because Jupiter and also Moon is in Taurus, and maybe I think that Turkey is like a sheltered refuge or a port or a gathering center in this regard. Jupiter is already in Taurus, so Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, and in conjunction with the moon is in Taurus, so it can be considered as a shelter or a center of protection. But there was an important development in our country. We will affect to the last new moon in Sagittarius. In the new moon chart, Mercury was in Capricorn. And you know, Turkey's Capricorn houses is in the seventh house. And the seventh house shows agreements. And Julia mentioned that with neighboring countries. And also, I mentioned that the last image of this was related with the last new moon in Sagittarius. So for coordinates is in Turkey, of course. And our Mercury, you know, is in there. And in astrocartography, as we can see, Mercury also exactly between the Greece and Turkey, and Mercury IC line passes exactly between in there. So I can say that it was a really impressive aspect, I think. And I know that there are a lot of topics to talk about, but to summarize, because I'm a Virgo sign, you know, guys, in the summarize, the issues awaiting us for 3 months are as follow: political issues, economic developments, foreign affairs, immigration laws, maybe, educations, international relations, distant travels will be among the important issues. And thank you for invitation.
Wow. Thank you, Kenan.
Are you
Amazing
looking
presentation.
forward to hearing what you have to add? I don't know. Maybe you can.
Yeah, that's Lianne,
some-
do you want to make any comment about the chart?
Yeah, I think again, I'm sort of very focused on the migration and accepting
Yes.
all the refugees, and I think you described that perfectly. And that moon Jupiter is a refuge. It's people seeking a
Yes.
new home, the displaced Saturn Pisces people trying to find a new home. But I think there's going to be lots of restrictions because Saturn restricts, Capricorn's about boundaries. So this is about many, many countries trying to shrink the amount of sort of refugees coming in, or just control them more. So I think that this theme of migration and people seeking asylum, it's going to keep going on and on and on for a long time yet. But if we just quickly, you mentioned Ceres in Sagittarius before, Julia, when we looked at the Israel chart, Ceres was rising. It was actually in the 12th rising. And when Ceres was in Scorpio, when the Israel conflict kicked off, and we saw the children kidnapped. That's Ceres. Pluto came and snatched Ceres's daughter Proserpina and took her down to Hades. But what Ceres is also about, Ceres likes to keep things civilized, and it's very much about negotiations, right? So I think with Ceres in Sagittarius, obviously it's not on this chart here, but it's above Mars there. We're going to see some more legal negotiations, and I think that's obviously going to be about hostages and the situation in Israel, but it is going to be about who we're accepting into our countries. And if you think Ceres negotiated with Hades to have Proserpina on Earth for 6 months of the year, and you see Ceres so often in charts of parents when they're trying to sort custody out with their children. So I think we're going to see lots and lots of negotiations with Ceres in Sagittarius, and she will definitely bring something civilized, without a doubt. But it's going to be legal. It's Sagittarius. It's all going to be legal and law and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think this, the earthquakes as well and the weather. I think we're going to be seeing some sort of volatility there. Very much so as well. But I totally agree with you, Kenan, about Jupiter and politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much agree with that, because politics often ends up in law and legislation, so it fits very well. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Julija, Jupiter is the ideas that come through, what the politics talk about, and then Saturn lays down the law, it writes it down. But Jupiter starts the process for sure. Yeah. But the Ceres thing is very interesting. I've always looked at Ceres also as, an underworld goddess like Pluto, right? So she's almost like the feminine equivalent of Pluto to me, because she does relate to the mysteries of life, death, and rebirth, right?
She's very transitional, incredibly transitional. Yeah,
because she oversaw all the, the Eleusinian mysteries. She was the goddess of the mysteries of the underworld. But the thing, we've talked about this in various ways, in many places, but Pluto moves so slowly, but Ceres moves very fast, or, relatively fast. So we can connect with her on much more of a immediate, personal level, whereas Pluto is slow and, so that's the difference. She's like a quicker moving Pluto to me. And,
she's another octave, Pluto, definitely. Yeah.
So where she shows up, we've got those themes very much so, deeply in our faces.
Ceres was in Scorpio along with Mars.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, it was so intense, and the children being taken by hammers.
It was just so
Ceres. And it was so sad, and it is the grief, of course, as well, of being separated from the parent-child relationship.
Yeah.
But it's also about very much transitional, so moving from one stage of life to another. And there's, often a sense of grief when we leave one stage of life behind to move to another. So, which is a very Pluto thing as well, that rebirth and transformation. So, yeah, absolutely. I think Ceres is often very underestimated and overlooked. I think,
and she's a dwarf planet, like Pluto is. So, if we use Pluto, we should use Ceres, really.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I use the same orbs as I would for any other planet. I treat Ceres as any other planet.
And she's bigger than Chiron. I mean, she's a dwarf planet. Chiron's a centaur classification and a lot smaller. So she's a presence for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Of course, there are lots of significators in here, maybe, but I not prefer to mention that Venus and opposite to Uranus and other, because Julia wants to come here this year. Is
it safe?
Yes, if I predict an earthquake, it might be a little bad. Let's not scare her.
It will be after the Aries ingress, so I'll check the Aries ingress.
Okay.
But my Venus go through it. So.
Just make sure you elect the time of travel. Do a full election and pick the best time to travel.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be
really,
mid-May
really.
sometime.
Okay, cool. Maybe we can join together there. Wow,
Oh,
that would be
really?
fantastic.
Yeah, Kenan, this is a mission for Agent. Let's do something in Istanbul.
Of course, I'm ready to meet her.
Yeah. That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julia, from Melbourne, and then thank you for the CIA support list. We have 3 agents here, but we should make a Lianne agent.
Everyone should be an agent.
Everyone, of course.
I'd love to be an agent. I've got a very Mercury Pluto thing going on, so I want to be.
Yeah, let's do it. And thank you, Leah, and thank you, Kenan. Thank you, all of you, bring the fantastic topic. I always enjoy, and please, let's do it again before everything agrees. So you guys bring the fantastic, and we have a lot of view, and we have a lot of feedback. Thank you, great. And someone suggest that earthquake was the 6th of February. Thank you very much. I think this is 30 mentioned it. Okay. Well, we have a lot of friends on the YouTube say hello. So we'll say hello back.
Hello,
and thank everyone for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Well, happy solstice to you all.
Yeah.
Happy solstice and happy holiday.
Happy holiday.
Happy Christmas for someone who want to have a Christmas. And then thanks everyone. Well, Leanne will join me next Wednesday on the Instagram, and then I will hope to see everyone soon. Okay? Yes. Julia?
Oh no, I was just disappearing into my. Anyway, it's all gone.
Julia, is there any reason going to recent event hosted by the CIA soon?
Well, we just did our panel this morning.
Yes, I saw it,
we won't be doing anything till 2024. There's, of course, everything in our membership that anyone can join. Yeah. There's plenty of stuff there, but we'll get back into it in 2024. We have a retreat in Venus Bay, which is nearly booked out. So anyone in Australia you can come from anywhere. We have 3 places left, so it's really great to have, and look, I'd love to do I am planning to do something in Australia on a bigger scale, but it was going to be 2025 early, but it might be September 2025. But anyway, I'll keep you all informed when I know more.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd love to have
also Maurice Fernandez will be in there.
Yes, Maurice Fernandez is our special guest this time, and see, I'm disappearing into the back.
You're a Neptune character.
Patient, bathing. Okay,
very cosmic.
Well, definitely. Okay.
Thank you, Rod.
Everyone.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, thank you, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.